Morning, Candice.
Good
Welcome.
morning, Claire.
Welcome to my little online front room having a cup of tea with me. Have you got a cup of tea?
I have got a cup of tea, of course.
Good, so have I. Let's cheers. See if we can do it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ding.
Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited to chat to you because we have actually met in real life. I feel it's such a privilege to meet guests in real life because obviously it's an online podcast. Um, and when we were chatting, I said I don't want to know too much. I want to
Yeah, we
save
didn't
it.
want to talk to each other too much because we thought
No.
we'd save it for
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah. We did start, and then we're like, no, no, okay, let's go mingle, because it was at the Jingle Mingle as
It
a
was,
part of
yeah.
the Wilder Collective, which was such a lush time. I'm really happy to be part of that group. Um, but I just am fascinated with your journey, and actually, that conversation we had when you said, "I know I've been following you." Isn't it funny how people online you follow people and you don't realise who they
Oh,
are in real
yeah.
life?
Do you know what? Before I launched Mother Cuppa, I only had a Facebook account. Like, I'd never done a reel or anything. And it's like it's opened up this whole new world that I didn't
Yeah.
even know existed. And I love it. And I've been following you because I think I actually remember the post that I followed you off the back of. You were talking about confidence and self belief. And I can't remember what you were saying, but it really resonated. So I've kind of just been lurking in the background. And then when I saw you at that event, I was like, oh my God, I'm following you. And we're in the same collective. And I just hadn't tied up all the dots.
And we already had this booked in as well,
Yeah.
haven't we? We've had
Yeah.
it booked in for
It's
ages.
probably me in my head, not all getting it all timed
No, but
right.
I do that. There's somebody that was there and we've been emailing because I'm going into her community to do a masterclass. And then I realised like, I didn't even get to talk to you. I didn't even see your
That's so
face, but we're in
funny.
the
Yeah,
same room.
that's
Wait,
so
guys.
funny.
But I love the fact that I've said something that resonated with you. I love that.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
That's what
really
I'm here
good.
about.
Yeah.
Um, I want to know the love story of your business, all of the nitty gritty as well. And you don't have to do the short version either. So, how did
Okay.
it all start?
Okay, so I have two businesses. I'll tell you about both of them. So the first business is that I run a bus and coach company with my husband. We've got 28 vehicles, 40 staff, and a massive, great big flipping headache most of the time. It's a beast of a business. It never sleeps. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 364 days of the year. I'm in that business because my mother-in-law was unwell. It's a family business on my husband's side. And my husband and his brother had tried to kind of make that work a few months after she'd left. She had to leave quite quickly. And he was in a mess. He was messy. And he just said to me, I need you to give up work and come and help me for a bit. So I'd been working as a director of work-based learning for a
Oh,
local
yes.
education authority.
Mm.
And so I'd literally just been made director, and I had to say to him, I'm gonna take a sabbatical for a year. And that was the plan, was I was gonna go and help my husband out for a year, just kind of get things modernized and what have you, get some systems in place, and then go back to my career. And that's over 10 years ago.
Oh my God, it
So
was 10 years ago. You
yeah.
were talking like it was just, yeah, like a couple of
No,
years. Oh my God.
no.
Okay.
I just loved it. Like,
Mm.
absolutely loved it. I mean, a privilege to walk into, and the business is over 40 years old. So it's an
Wow.
established business. It needed fresh eyes on it, like stuff you could totally get your teeth into, loads of stuff where you could see to make improvements. Yeah, I just loved it. I loved it. So that's business number one.
You must have
And
felt so empowered though, strutting in there like, I'm here now. I've arrived to help
yeah,
you.
well, it didn't feel like that because I remember the first day somebody rang up to ask for a coach, and I thought, I don't even know how many seats it's got. You know, and I remember like I had to learn about the geography of the UK basically, and people would say,
Oh,
"Oh, what's going on? How
wow.
long will it take?" And I'd think, "Oh my God, I don't know, I have no idea. I
And I
don't even
suppose
know if I could drive there."
10 years ago, Google Maps wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was pretty much a paper-based company. My mother-in-law had done an
Mm,
amazing job over the years. She really had, and she had some really amazing systems. But as the business had grown, her systems just didn't work, and I think
mm,
that's part and parcel of the reason why she ended up leaving. Um, so for me, the environment I was working in originally was a paperless environment. So of course, I walked into this room full of paper, and I was like, "Oh my god, what are we going to do? Where to start?"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was a real challenge, but a lot of fun. And I've enjoyed working with my husband. That was the bit that we were really nervous about, and we
Mm,
kind of said we'll do it for as long as it works. As soon as it's affecting the marriage, we stop doing it. But actually, in some ways, it's kind of made our marriage stronger. Like, we're a really good team. We're complete opposites. I'm a visionary, action, um, proactive person. James is very grounded. He's quite slow. He's very methodical. He'll rein me in, whereas I'll pull him out. So we really, like, two business owners, we couldn't have more complementary skill sets, really. Um, and then Mother Cuppa is my second business, so totally unrelated. I blend herbal teas to support women's health and hormones, and that is because I have had a hormone condition my whole life.
mm,
I had a very major operation and was placed in a medically induced menopause in my 20s.
mm,
I was on a lot of medication at the time, wasn't having a very good time, and decided after some of my treatments to look at different ways that I could look after my body, which included eating differently, exercising differently. And in that journey, I got introduced to medicinal plants, and I took great comfort in feeling some control over what I was sort of helping my body with. And it's just gone from there, really. I wasn't planning for that to be a business. These things have a funny way of happening. But in the first lockdown, Mason's, the coach business, was incredibly impacted, as you might imagine.
yeah, of course.
And pre-lockdown, we ate, breathed, slept that business. We went on holiday with our laptops. We didn't have any sort of break. The lockdown really impacted the business. My health started to deteriorate, and there was some things going on with my hormones again. And I just said, we can't go back to what we were doing. We need to
Mm,
rethink this. And a bit of me, because like super loved running the business. Like, I should have been doing that from the second I left school. There's no doubt about it. Just took me a lot of years to work that out. I really wanted something that was my own. And the coach business is amazing, and we have done so much work to it, and my passion really is within that business. But I wanted something that was for me.
mm,
And so Mother Cuppa was sort of a natural progression,
mm,
really. But I needed to do a few things first, Claire. I needed to get Masons running without me needing to be there every day, so that I had some
mm.
time. So it's been a bit of a journey to get to where I am today. And I'm still talking. Right, you asked some questions.
No, this is brilliant. I'm having the best time ever. I just see and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so interesting. I've got lots of like questions that come up that I was just thinking, one, I would love you to share some of your knowledge about it and what how your tea can help. But going back, like where because at that time, obviously lockdown was horrendous for so many people and it gave so many opportunities to so many people thinking outside of the box, and it felt like this whole world opened up, and like talking about like you said about Instagram
Mhm.
and social media and online business, a podcast, like doing a podcast like this was just no one did it because
Yeah, yeah.
this just didn't happen. But in that moment where you've already got quite a lot on your plate with Masons,
Hmm.
and then saying the solution to this is
Is to
to
start
put
another
more
business.
on my plate. Is that sort of like a natural thing that you do, or was it just very? I know that you were saying it was very intentional that you had to get Masons to a certain point so you could take a step back, but in that moment you just filled with so much excitement that that didn't even
I
come into your
think it
mind.
sowed a seed. I'm definitely the sort of person where I've not even finished achieving one thing and I'm thinking about the next
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Definitely that's part of my personality. I think there's a possibility that I get bored quite quickly. I'm a person that needs to be challenged continuously. I don't seem to take great comfort in like running challenges and exercise challenges. It's not the same, but a business challenge like totally motivates me. I'm
Mm.
really, yeah, I'm really driven by business. I love it. I feel in control, and I think there's an element of that. Um, no, it was a seed that was sown, and to be honest, the lockdown really did knock me for six, and I'd probably
Mm.
been being knocked for six prior to that because Masons had gone from when I started, Masons had 6 vehicles, and when we went into the pandemic, we had 18. So we'd already
Wow.
experienced this massive period of growth, and it was still me doing the day to day stuff. And I don't know about anybody else who's grown quite a large business quite quickly, or any business quite quickly. You end up in a bit of a seesaw space where you're just about keeping it all together, but you as a person are not necessarily keeping it all together. And I would say to people, do you know what? Some weeks I'm winning and some I'm not. I can either keep it together at work or I can keep it together at home, but the two are not happening at the same time.
Mm.
And, that lockdown really affected me. Purely from a business point of view, I didn't sleep for 6 months. I was really
Oh my God.
stressed. It was really difficult. We weren't included in the kind of hospitality grants. There was no funding. We'd slipped through every net, and we had a finance bill of like 35 grand a month. We had 40 staff's wages to pay. And it was really just me and my
Oh
husband
wow.
dealing with that. So it was just a lot going on. And everybody got furloughed. So I was doing bits of everybody else's job. The bookkeeper that worked for me full time, just so happened her husband had a really horrific accident and was in hospital with a back injury within days of going in and out of the lockdowns.
Oh my
And
God.
so, I was trying to do her job. Now, the accounting piece going into a lockdown was the biggest piece of the business that point because you were refunding or you were trying to sort accounts out and push things back and do credit notes and all that sort of stuff. So, no, it was really, really, really troublesome. And I'm not. I'm definitely not the only one, and I don't think people talk about how horrible that was. You
Well,
know.
I remember a time when I got actually asked onto a podcast, and the person who briefed me, and I must say this must have been 2021. Before she started the interview, she briefed me and said, "Do not talk about lockdown. Do not talk about um, something else. Something else." Like I wasn't allowed to even
Okay,
talk about any experience. And I mean, in 2021, it literally
that's a
just
big part
we
of
were
your
we were
life.
still in and out of lockdown.
Yeah,
Um, and the tone was that there's enough speaking about it. But I know that, I didn't have what you had on your plate, but there is a period of, your adrenaline must have been pumping through that. And this is the period, anybody that's going through crisis, you're
yeah,
going through that situation, your adrenaline is off the scale.
yeah,
And so, how you think about things is incredibly different to how you can do it when you're neutral and regulated and everything. But there's a period of time where you have to recover from that. And it's like PTSD. Well, this is why PTSD happens,
yeah.
that
And I totally agree. And I think don't minimise or maximise it for yourself. I
no,
believe nearly every single person has their own lockdown space in their
mm,
life, and it's affected them in a positive or negative way, or it's opened doors or it hasn't. Or I think that's the same for everybody. And I think one person's stress levels to the person that was bored sitting in their garden is the same thing. It's just it was what it was for each of us
yeah,
as individuals. And I mean, I actually don't think I'd be the person I am right now today if I hadn't had that experience. It was almost like my pathway of life needed to shove me down this most horrific route to really
yeah,
learn about myself Because I think the reality is, you asked me earlier, I mean, the idea for Mother Cuppa was sown in that period, but I had no confidence to go and do that. I did not believe in myself. I was in a pretty dark space in my head about me and my capabilities, and feeling quite stuck in life. I had a daughter that was getting ready to go to university. Life was changing around me, getting to 40 and feeling like I wasn't quite where I wanted to be. All of those feelings, which are really normal, by the way, when you start to approach 40.
I'm 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it's totally normal. And but I think I needed to experience that to be able to come out the other side. Now, what happened, I think it must have been like the first or second week of lockdown. I'm part of a confederation of passenger transport. It's like the trade body. And they sent a cover letter out and said, we want you all to write to your MPs and tell them your stories, and hopefully we can get some coverage of what's happening within the industry. And I did. And the MP wrote back and said, I'd like to speak with you. I'd never spoken to an MP. I was so scared. I was really nervous. And the Confederation of Passenger Transport gave me media training. And I had a really great conversation with him. It opened up some doors. He put me on the Conservative Roundtable's business meetings, which opened up some other doors. I got interviewed by local media and then national media, and then I was invited to advise on the Department for Transport, and then I somehow became a spokesperson for the industry. And it didn't happen overnight. It was just me jabbering away about what was happening to my business and my family, and how upsetting it was and how unfair it was, and giving real stats about the numbers and how that was impacting and what that meant to local community and economy. And so somehow that sort of really helped me see a completely different side of me that I didn't really even know existed. I didn't know I could speak out on behalf of others, or that I could speak to people in really powerful positions and influence them. And so I think my confidence sort of really grew. And when we went, I think it was that Christmas lockdown, was that 2021? And I said to James, I was getting ready to sort of put my New Year's resolutions in place and all that sort of stuff. And I said, I'm going to completely change my life. I don't want to feel like I did pre-pandemic. I don't want to feel unconfident, lacking self-belief. That's not a person I want to be anymore. I'm going to completely change my life, and I'm going to do it by starting another business. And that was what I thought would be a really good idea. I'm laughing about it now because the reality is, you start a business, you think, I've got a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome journey.
Yeah.
Like that was the way to go about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
then I think it was about taking myself completely out of my comfort zone. Because at Mason's I'd gotten comfortable. Like, I knew that business inside out and that job inside out, and I didn't need to think about it. I didn't give it any more, and my energy on it had started to get tired. Yeah, I just needed to completely take myself out of my comfort zone. So yeah, that's my little story.
I love this stuff. I was just writing down a question, but I feel like I was going to save it, but I think I'm just going to ask it now, because I really want to find out about how Mother Cuppa and how you've generated and the
Yeah.
story behind that. But you said about being in your comfort zone and then moving and jumping out of that. Do you find time, or do you intentionally find situations or create them so that you're coming out of your comfort zone again? And this actually probably leads into another question I wanted to ask, but are you intentional about that because you saw the positive impact of doing it with Mother Cuppa?
Yeah, I think probably if I look back across all of my year, all of my years, I've had quite an eclectic work history, and I've always just thought, well, if you don't go for it, you'll never know if you're any good at it. And I am the sort of person that you could pick up and pop in any environment, and I would absorb it, work it out, and make my best of it. So yeah, I think I probably am that sort of person, except for the fact that I don't really like being uncomfortable, yeah, because when you're uncomfortable, you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. So for me, I knew that I needed to make drastic changes. That's definitely a trait of mine, in order to somehow work my way out of it, if that makes sense, and to become confident in that space. I did exactly that with Mother Cuppa. I mean, I can blend herbal teas until the cows come home. I think I'm really good at blending teas. I'm getting a lot of feedback that I'm very good at blending tea. But I knew nothing about product sourcing, packaging. I knew nothing about the legalities of operating a herbal tea business. I knew nothing about social media. I had some marketing experience from Masons, but really it was quite old-fashioned marketing.
Mm.
I knew nothing about Klaviyo email marketing. I knew nothing about Instagram. I knew nothing about TikTok. And a part of me wanted to learn about that space. What's it like to run a really modern business? And because I'd been trying to get Masons very automated, that we were coming up against a lot of challenges for that to happen, I felt like with Mother Cuppa, I could kind of see the picture of how that could happen. And again, it was modern systems and Shopify websites and Klaviyo and social media and digital advertising and things like that. So yeah, I felt like I knew I wanted to run a business, but I needed to do something, quite different. Anyway.
But because you've been through lockdown, it's like your resilience battery was fully charged to be able to go into that, and figure it out. And I, I am quite surprised that you felt before that you weren't confident when you had that ability to figure anything out. Were you aware of it? So you were saying about jumping from different careers. Maybe you weren't aware of it.
No, I probably wasn't, but the self-belief and the self-doubt was becoming a much louder voice in my head. And
Mm,
I have always been like that, but it was getting louder and louder, and it was really eating me up. And I am a really resilient person, and I do bounce back, but the bouncing back was getting slower and slower. I was
right.
taking longer to bounce back from things. And I think, again, that's as you're getting older, some of those hormonal changes mean that doesn't happen. I don't bounce back like I did in my 20s. In my 20s, I could have had a cry, thrown a few toys out the pram, and I'd have been all right the next day. Then you hit
Mm,
midlife, and actually it's taking you 6 weeks, 8 weeks to bounce back from a really difficult period. And that I was really noticing. And I'd noticed that change a lot in the last 10 years, because I'd been to see a therapist at one point. I really, and I felt like I was always the person to blame, that things always happened because of me, that I would only ever amount to what I was doing because that's all I deserved. Um, and there are still messages around that are with me. I just am way, way more aware of them now. So
mm,
really, starting Mother Cuppa has been a bit of a self-discovery
mm.
journey along the way. I've journaled my experiences. I really, really wanted to change. I didn't want to keep crashing and burning and bouncing back in, getting slower, and all the things we've just talked about. So yeah, I would say now it's very, very intentional. I
Yeah.
would say it is.
But what you're highlighting, which I think is a misconception, that you can have be able to figure these things out and be resilient, and at the same time lack self belief, and doubt can still be really loud. And I think people think you have to, just because when you hit crisis mode and you're like probably the best person in the room, or like you
Yeah,
can figure things out, get stuff done, but that's fueled by different, like that is fueled by adrenaline, and that's not
yeah.
sustainable, and that's not where being fueled by dopamine is obviously so much more rewarding. And that's where you're talking about, going out of your comfort zone and then seeing and feeling the reward is so much more powerful than moving forward, and that's where
And
your confidence
celebrating
starts to
that
grow.
as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had this conversation. Like, I didn't know that celebrating your own successes was a thing a few years ago. That just wouldn't have crossed my mind, because my natural default is to think, well, you did that was great, but you did this bad and you did that
Yeah.
bad, and to pull up on all the bad things. So a terrible trait, really, to not be any feelings of gratefulness or gratitude or celebration of you as a person. And so that's been something I've been very aware of. Um, when I
Mm.
look back through that period of doing those news interviews and MP meetings, I mean, it was literally every week I was doing something different, stuff I'd never done before. And I would be getting messages from operators up and down the country going, "Oh, you're so amazing. It's so great that you're doing this for us." And I'd be sat there thinking, well, I didn't say that, and I should have asked for that harder, and I should be pushing even more, And I had to really stop at one point and say, hang on a minute. 6 months ago, you wouldn't even talk to your MP without media training. And here you are just bolshing into meetings like you know what you're doing. um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I really have had to stop and take a step back. And even with Mother Cuppa, the social media thing completely threw me. I did not know putting your face on a camera would make you feel like the biggest piece of crap in the world.
I know. It's horrible, isn't it?
When you
Oh
first
my
start
God.
and you're like, I'm not as pretty as them. I'm not as intelligent as them. I don't have a passion like they do. I haven't had a career for 20 years. I have no authority on this subject. 100 things that go through your mind that stop you putting
Yeah.
your face on there. I didn't know that was going to happen to me. I thought I'd be all right. Like, oh yeah, I'll work social media out. That'll be fine. It just stopped me in my tracks. Like, who do you
Yeah.
even think you are?
Yeah. It's savage, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think it's really, really, really normal as well. And I think I'm doing some work with my brother-in-law at the moment because he's trying to start a business. He was telling me a really similar story, and I was like, Rob, that is so normal to feel like that about being on social media. But the want and desire to make Mother Cuppa work and grow was greater than my need to self berate and
Yeah.
pick holes. And so I've just very consciously learned to shut that voice up a little bit.
Yeah. That was my turning point when I overcome it. I was like, what do I want more? The success of
Yeah,
this business or to worry about what I think somebody might be thinking about me that they're probably not
totally.
thinking about me?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
Mandy. I always think of this girl that I used to go to school. Her name was Mandy. And she used to be so horrible to me. And ended up, nothing wrong, but she ended up working in Burger King and that's what she did. But I still
Yeah.
think, oh, what would Mandy think? Who
Yeah,
gives a
I
shit?
know that's mad, isn't it? And we've all got a Mandy in our
Yeah.
in our
Yeah, yeah,
face or
yeah.
in our life, 100%. Yeah,
Crazy.
100%. And actually, it's funny because it's your closest friends who they just make comments and they don't even know they're
Yeah.
doing it. And I think it's because in some ways you're showing up as a person that they can't necessarily be themselves. And it's not that it's just that they don't know how to cheer you on because that's a new space for them. And I'm pretty much the only person out of my sort of close knit group of friends that runs a business.
Yeah,
And
me
I
too,
think
yeah.
they haven't got a clue.
No.
They've got no way of relating what running a business is really like.
No.
Um, so I just smile and think, yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
And I think it's really it's one there was one friend that used to say stuff when I was first starting out. Mind you, she had her own business and she's got this big Instagram. And her in my head, it was so debilitating. When I recognised it was that, I felt a bit more powerful. I'm not friends with her anymore. But I think it's recently my friends have become better at asking questions for me to teach
Yeah,
them what's going on.
yeah,
But that's taken nearly 6 years. And
yeah,
that,
totally.
and some of my best friends listen. So,
Yeah,
hey Bex, hey Sham. Um, and, but both, I think you always have one friend that wants to support you no matter what and has no idea
yeah,
what's going on. But when you're in a group with me and my friends, I want to talk about my business because it's my life.
yeah,
Obviously, my husband and my son are my life too, but I love it so much. I get so excited. I could talk about my business. Well, I do. That's why I've got a podcast. But you know what I mean? I talk about it all day
yeah.
long. I
I'm with
love
you
it.
on that one, Claire. I
I
really
love
do.
all the people I help. I can tell them stories. Guess what I've tried? Like, I'm going to make a lead magnet out of AI. I'm so excited about that. Like, I don't even know
Yeah,
how I'm going to do it. I'm so
totally with
excited.
you.
Yeah, all of that. So when they want to talk about stuff, that's what I want to talk about, but they don't understand it. So It
No,
doesn't happen. But I've got
no,
better
no.
at sort of, like I was talking to one of my friends about, she's into she does IT, and I was talking, I can't even remember what it was now, something about indexing, Google SEO, like some other jargon thing that I'd learned. And she was like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So there's different areas. If I talk about an area of the business where that I know they do for a job, maybe, then
Yeah,
we've got,
you
because I
get some
think
relatable
they
content.
want to be on a level, but you're right. When you're showing up on Instagram, at first, I think it's so alien. They got to get to know that version of you.
Yeah,
But
that is so true. That
yeah,
is
because
really true.
you are putting on a sash of fierce, that
And I think as
persona.
well, because you feel totally uncomfortable, anything anyone
Yeah.
says would really hammer in
Yes.
at that time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I definitely think confidence comes with competence. So the more you're doing it, the more you show up. And I got to the point where I was just like, right, don't even watch it back, just put it out there.
Yes.
And if in a couple of days' time you decide you don't like it, you can just delete it. Like, it doesn't need to be out there forever. And I have to say, I've never deleted a piece of content. I've just thought, oh, well, that didn't land, or that's doing really well. Or actually, I had a follow from one person who I've had a really great conversation with since. And so that was worth it. Yeah, and actually nowadays, I have to say, I think it's one of the most fun bits of the business. I love social media. You and I wouldn't have met without it. I'm obsessed with the connections that I've made through it. Like, it just wows me, like a
Yeah.
door opened to the world. Um, yeah, I think, and I know a lot of business owners find it really hard doing social media, but I just really love it as a space, and I am fascinated what makes a person then tip into purchasing your product, or tip
Yeah.
into commenting or having a conversation with you. Um, yeah, I find that really fascinating, that kind of human behaviour around it.
And what do you think is the biggest way to convert them from a watcher to a customer?
I think being yourself.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because that was in my head. I was like, yes.
Yeah, I think stop trying to be something you're not. Just be
Yeah.
you. You can choose. And I had a big conversation with myself about this about 6 months in, is how vulnerable you want to be and how much you want to share. You don't have to share everything. You don't have to be solely your own person, but just be you, doing the things you normally do, and and make friends like you would if you were going to a coffee morning, or when we went to the Jingle Mingle. That's what social is. It's a social platform. So be sociable. It's supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to, it being like going out for a cuppa with your girlfriends, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've taken to viewing it. And I get up every day and I've got messages from people who are now, I would call them my friends.
Mm.
Um, I think the taking them from, so that sort of content would encourage a person to comment with you or send a message maybe, but then taking them from that to a sales is about trust, and they've got to trust you as the person of that product. And I think that's a really big, and that just takes a bit of time.
And then for you,
Or you totally talk to that person, it's so relatable they can't not buy your product.
oh yeah, I mean, sometimes it just takes one sentence
Yeah,
that you say in a way, but in your experience of living through what you are with your hormone condition, and then creating a solution that is natural, that's so inspirational. So
yeah.
how did you, because blending tea to me sounds like, I don't know, like, just wouldn't even know where to begin.
No,
Did you?
it's somebody else said that to me. It's not a natural
Yeah.
thing to do. So I was diagnosed with endometriosis, which when I was diagnosed, I think is now nearly 24 years ago. It's a really long time ago.
Yeah.
I was really, really lucky to get my diagnosis, because there are women today who still can't get diagnosed.
Yep.
I was in a pretty bad way. I was quite unwell. I had to have a very major operation. All of my So endometriosis is effectively, in a nutshell, the lining of your womb is not lining the internal sides of your womb as it should do. It doesn't flow as it should do, and it ends up depositing around parts of your body. So
Mm.
when I had my operation, my bowel, bladder, and kidneys were effectively fused together. So
Oh my
a lot
gosh.
of my complications were the knock-on effects of kidney
Yeah.
infections and bladder problems and bowel problems and things like that. So it was lots and lots of complications, as well as the most horrific cycles known to man. Um, so I was really lucky to get my diagnosis, and I'm really grateful for that. I didn't understand what the medically induced menopause, which by the way they reversed with hormone treatment. So I had hormones to stop my cycles and put my body in a menopause, and then I was injected with hormones to restart everything again. And I just had enough. I was
Mm.
prodded and poked and injected for what felt like quite a few years.
And was this before you had children or after?
Yeah, it was
Before.
before.
Oh my
Before.
goodness.
Yeah. Um, I remember going, like my friends going out to a nightclub, and I was just sat in a corner crying, like menopausal rage, crying,
Oh my God,
hysterical,
babe.
like I can't move, I can't go out, I can't talk to people. And there wasn't even social media, so nobody
No.
talked about their periods with anybody. I don't even remember talking that much to my mum about it. Um,
Back
my
in the blue liquid phase
I
of life.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
absolutely.
literally spoke about this yesterday.
Yeah. And I remember going to the library and saying, right, I've been diagnosed with this. Have you got any books? And which they didn't have. And they had to order one in from somewhere else in the world and get it. And it was like the only book about endometriosis in the
Wow.
whole wide world. Um, I was so lucky to get my diagnosis, but then they brought in all the students to learn about it. So all the gynecological students would be coming in and having a good old look and a poke around. I
Bloody
mean, it was
hell.
just awful. And like I say, this book talked about lifestyle changes, which as a 20-year-old you know nothing about. I didn't know food could have any impact on your
No.
body at all. I didn't know exercise could impact your body. Um, and so I was sort of working my way through, and I started by, I had a food journal, and I would log everything I ate, everything I drank, and then any symptoms I was feeling, and I would log that religiously. So I started to see patterns in my cycle changes around foods that I was eating. So if I'd had a bad week of pizzas and burgers and what have you, like damn well know your period's going to be really bad this month.
Mm.
Um, and then yeah, I there was a chapter in the book about medicinal ingredients, and I'd gone to the health food shop and I was like, I don't even know what these are, these words in this book. And the woman in there was just amazing. She was so knowledgeable about the history of these ingredients and how, I mean, some ingredients have been used for centuries to try and heal people's bodies. I mean, you've only got to go back a couple of centuries and we didn't even have medication, it was all plant based. And it just totally, I just loved it. And it was her who used to say, if you put it into a tea, it's a really nice way to take these drops or strain these ingredients, with an infuser. And that's really where it started.
Wow.
Much, much later, only about 7 years ago, I retrained as a tea sommelier and I specialised in blending. That was the units that I did. And I got to go and do some judging on tea tasting awards. And it kind of started opening a few little doors, but again, it was only ever going to be a hobby that I didn't have any intentions to do anything with it really. Until, like I said, in the lockdown, I started thinking, maybe there's a thing. And I'd created the most amazing blend in lockdown, and I was like, oh, it's really good. Like, I should start sharing this with other people.
Is that like your signature blend then?
The relax blend. Yeah, she is the most popular blend amongst my
Oh, I
women.
love it.
Like,
It's she. I love that.
they are all my she's because they're my
Oh,
babies.
oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
That's
this
making me
happy
feel
place is like a
emotional.
baby. Yeah.
Oh God.
So,
Yes.
and because I created that blend at a time where I so needed it, like I wasn't sleeping, I had real high functioning anxieties, I was burning out, I was in a really bad space, and that blend just brought me the most amount of comfort. And she's just like my friend in my life. That's really
Yeah.
dramatic, isn't it?
No.
I mean,
No.
I'm not stupid. Herbal tea is not going to solve all of your life problems, but some of those ingredients are incredibly powerful and have the greatest ability to really help your body. And no, I'm not going to solve all of your life problems, but boy, am I going to bring some comfort to you
It's a
when you
good
need
place to
it.
start though.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
And tea is so easy. It's such an easy change to support your health. And I'm not talking about your everyday teas here. I'm talking about your medicinal plant-based ingredients, even a green tea. You know, these are all things that have a really positive impact on your health in the long run. Um, and you don't need to go completely vegan or stop eating wheat or give up milk or all of those things. It's just a
Yeah.
tiny little addition to your day that can have a real amount of comfort to your day and help your health. And that's how I feel about it.
Do you have a like morning blend? Because I have one cup of tea. Well, I do have tea in the evening sometimes, but I always drink decaf tea because I don't have coffee until much later in the day, but I'm a coffee fiend, so I have to like,
Okay.
you know, just
Yeah,
keep myself
I
locked
definitely have to
in.
be really careful about the coffee subject because there are loyal lovers out there, also loyal lovers of Yorkshire tea, I've discovered over the last few years.
Yeah.
Crikey, I wouldn't want to step on their toes and get in the way
Yeah.
of their special brew. And what I would say is my relationship with caffeine changed quite a few years ago, about, oh my God, it might even be 16 years ago now, 17 years ago. I did some reading around the impacts of caffeine. If you are a person that in any way struggles with sleep, struggles with burnout, struggles with anxiety or overwhelm, coffee is not necessarily
No.
helping you. And I think, again, women approaching midlife really start to appreciate that and see it slightly differently. I think it's the same with alcohol. Your relationship with alcohol changes as you get older. I think relationship with coffee also, caffeine is also changing. For me, it's made such a difference to take caffeine out of my life.
Mm,
I I only did it on a 28-day cleanse because, like you, I thought, oh, I can't never live without it. I love my coffee.
yeah.
But the first week I was so ill with it, like
Yeah.
headaches and sicky. I thought that can't be right, that can't be good. And by the end of the 28 days, I was like, I'm not going back. I feel much better.
Yeah.
And actually, the longer that's gone on, the better I've completely felt.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, I do have a morning blend, and that is that old. I've added a few ingredients to sort of help along the years, but that is a completely caffeine free. It has natural ingredients that try and keep the body in balance. I use adaptogen plants, and their job is to literally help your body adapt to its internal stressors, try and keep you in equilibrium, and stop you fatiguing too early. So it's much more about a sustained energy over not just your length of day, but a period of time. Um, it's got some ingredients in there that will help support giving you some natural energy, so you can drink it at the beginning of the day, or if you need that little pick me up at 4 o'clock, she's a beauty to just get you going through the last little bit of the day. And
Oh,
then the one I'm,
go on.
I was going to say the one I'm drinking now is the Hydrate blend, which is the blend I just drink all day, every day. That's my go-to blend. Us women
And
are
it,
not getting enough fluid in our systems.
oh, I couldn't agree. This is my best friend.
Yeah,
Two
you're
litres every day. I just
completely
carry her around till I've finished. But no, it's really interesting. Like I've had massive periods of time with no caffeine, no alcohol. I was really poorly, coming up for 6 years ago now, but I was like, the offshoot of it is that I'm intolerant to some foods now that I never was before, or maybe it was
okay.
just bubbling along. And one thing I had to give up was caffeine. And I remember I was so poorly that you don't really notice anything else because you're poorly.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
months, it must have been about 6 months. And I thought, do you know what? It is my favourite. Like, I'll just try one. Oh my God, I could have flown to Mars. I've got
yeah,
energy anyway. I
yeah,
was like gone. So I don't actually need, like when you were saying about sleep and stuff, I used to have insomnia and all of that. But now I delay that first coffee for as long as I can. Sometimes it's like 3 hours, sometimes it's an hour and a half, minimum an hour and a half. And then I don't drink coffee past 12 probably. And that's
yeah.
it.
That's
So it's
really
like three
common. I hear
cups.
that a lot.
And but the fact that I don't have that caffeine in the morning means I don't have that slump in the afternoon. So I will have energy, go, go, go. I will have consistent energy until 9 o'clock, which is
Yeah,
like wrong because I just want to be working. Once my boy's in bed, I'm like, oh, I can go and do a little bit more of that now. So I try and like chill out and stuff. So I'm really excited about trying your relax blend.
Oh
But
yeah, she's going to really help you.
isn't it? I think it's so how when I've had not, so I don't really drink anymore either. Like I will have a few, but my relationship with both of those things is so healthy now. But
Yeah,
if you said to me, Claire, you're going to get so much of this as giving it up, because obviously I know anyway, I'd be like, yeah, all right. Any benefit, if there's a benefit to your health, like with caffeine, like you, I've read so much and learned. And the one thing that I learned that really made me get on top of how much I was drinking, I mean, I used to be a teacher, so I was
oh my god, you
coffeeed.
were drinking loads. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
was
the only way
drinking
to
a lot.
survive being a teacher,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because you don't have time to eat, and the only way for you to stop feeling
Yeah,
hungry is to get a hot drink.
yeah,
And so, yeah, it's all caffeine. You know, like any teacher that sits down and has their lunch at lunchtime
yeah.
it just doesn't happen. And I was in the leadership anyway, so I was always on duty and whatever. But oh, why was I talking about that? This is always what I do. I was
I
saying,
think there are people who are intolerant of caffeine. Like that is actually a thing. You can have a body that is intolerant. You can have a body that is okay with caffeine. I think it's about knowing yourself as an individual,
yeah,
for your health and your self-belief that we've been talking about today. I think one of the benefits to doing the food journal for so many years was that I was really in tune with what worked internally in my body. That doesn't say necessarily my mind and my thoughts about myself, but physically the impact of what I was putting in my body and then what I would get out at the other side, which of course, now that we've got social media, everybody talks about it, gut health and eating more vegetables in your diet and all the things I'd been doing for years, and I thought I was a bit weird, and now everybody talks about it.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know so I
yeah.
think it's knowing your body, and that's really hard to get in tune with and know about.
Yeah, 100%. And it's having the patience and the dedication to find out and
Yeah,
believe that there is a solution once you know what your body's doing.
yeah, definitely.
There's one question that I wanted to ask you from earlier about
Mhm.
when you said people, and I don't know whether you realised you did this, but when you were talking about the coach company people and they were saying, oh my God, you're so amazing, you went, oh, you're so amazing. And you said it like that. And I
Did
wonder if,
I?
yeah, and I wonder if at the time, that was happening, you didn't believe that they were saying you were amazing. Has that changed when people say what you create has made massive impact to my well-being? Do you take that in and believe it?
It's I find it very difficult to take compliments, and it's probably I think a lot of women do. I think you don't know how to react to that. I think the benefit to doing the tea in the way that I am. I mean, I honestly, I wake up every morning. I've been tagged in some story of somebody having their breakfast tea or whatever, and I think, oh my god, I cannot get my head around my blends are in other people's houses. Like that is
Yeah.
my tea in your cup going into you and your body. Like I'm pretty like wow, that's I can't believe that's happening. Um, I like that I can help people, so I think that's where I take the comfort in. Um, but I never think I'm amazing. Like that just isn't a word that I would use to describe myself. But I think that's just because that's me. I'm not, yeah, I don't know. Just maybe that little bit still of self belief that isn't great. That's probably, and I have to say, I think it's the bit I am the only reason I hold myself back. Like I am the reason, me and my thoughts in my head, and I have worked really a lot on that over the years. And I know you wanted to talk about the crowdfunding campaign, and I'll tell you about that journey for self belief because I I wanted to try. So I knew the business was going to need some funding. I wanted to add blends. Women were asking me for different tea blends, specific ones. I've got recipes for them, but it costs a lot of money to get a new product to market, and that's because you're stuck on minimum order quantities, or you have to order 2,000 boxes or whatever. You can't just do a little small run of things. So I knew that I wanted some investment to the business. I'd done some research, was absolutely disgusted and shocked about female founders and the sort of investment they were getting and the time it was taking. I thought, well, blow me, I'm only 2 years into, 18 months into business. I don't know if that's the route I want to go down. It didn't feel right. I don't want a boss. So I'd known about crowdfunding. I thought, well, maybe that would be a good idea. So I came up with this plan to run the crowdfunding campaign to raise £7,000 to bring a new blend to market. And I was supposed to launch that crowdfunding campaign in January 2024, so just gone. And over Christmas, I completely bottled it. I had all my plans in place. And over Christmas, I thought, who do you think you are going out and doing that? You've got a business that's 18 months old. How are you going to ask people for money? Like, you don't even like asking your parents for money. Just really nasty thoughts about myself, and also a massive fear about failing very publicly in front of people. And I was tired at the end of the year, as everybody is at that Christmas phase. And I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I don't have to. That's how I talk to myself. But all year, and so in my mind, I was like, if you do it later in the year, you'll have had another sort of 6-9 months of growing your audience, and you've done all these lovely events where you've met people and they're loving your tea, and you'll have a bigger audience, so then it'll work. And of course, as the year was going on, I was thinking, you're going to run out of excuses. Like, you're going to have to do this. So I had to really work on myself before I could even go back into the plan for the crowdfunding campaign. So I worked on my own message to myself about what it felt like to ask for money, and that actually I wasn't personally asking for money for you to fund my holiday. I was asking for contributions to Mother Cuppa's ability to grow and be successful as a business. So I had to really change the wording. The what if I fail very publicly in front of people just had to be, what if you could turn that failure into a success story afterwards? Like, and also, what if you're not going to fail? Like, what if you actually do it? So lots of work for me around that, right up until the very first announcement that we were doing a crowdfunding campaign. I cried in the video. I did a live to say, oh, that big news I've been talking about for ages is we're going to do a crowdfunding campaign. And then I cried because I just thought, oh my God, it's out there now. I've actually got to do it. And a lady who's in my business network and has been purchasing my tea was on the live, and she's like, oh my God, Candice, this is the best idea you've ever had. And that's what made me cry. I just thought, oh my God, they actually think it's a good idea. And yeah, I mean, the crowdfunding campaign just kind of exploded. I think you might have seen some of that. We started off with a few female founder businesses. So the idea was you could pre-order the blend, you could make a donation to the campaign, or you could purchase one of the rewards from our female founded friends. And we had skincare and candles and T-shirts and bits and pieces on there. Well, the rewards and the pre-orders just flew on the first day. I could not believe it. We opened the website at 6 a.m. in the morning, and the first order came in as we switched it on. I was getting messages like, "Is it ready to go yet? Is it ready to go yet?" I couldn't believe it. Like, I think we did about £1,500 in the first few hours. It was mad. And £7,000 is a funny figure, but that is what it costs me to bring a new blend to market. And I didn't want to be greedy and ask for more. And I wanted to tell people about what it's really like costs wise to launch products, and that I haven't taken a salary from the business since I started because everything's been reinvested because we've grown quite quickly. And people just actually really enjoyed that honesty, I think, about the business. I had a lot of comments. Well, by the end of the first week, I had to close it in the end. I think we had like 60 female founded businesses who gifted an item to the campaign for my customers to go and purchase. And all of that money was going directly to the crowdfunding. And then the pre-orders were just, we're going mad. And we made it so the pre-orders you could do from £10 up. You could subscribe to it for 6 months or 3 months or whatever. So there's loads of different options from very small to larger for people to get involved in whatever capacity they saw fit. And about, I think it must have been like the Monday. So we finished it on the Sunday. So the Monday before, I remember waking up thinking, oh, okay, right, we're at 5,000 something. Okay, start typing out your messaging about what if we don't reach the target, and how are you going to tell these lovely people that have pre-ordered what's going to happen next and what is actually going to happen next, because you don't even know. So I'd started drafting the wording for that, and then I did some social media stuff, and then I woke up on the Wednesday morning and messaged Nikki Elliott, and I was like, holy shit, we're going to exceed the target. Oh my God, what do I tell people about what do we do with the extra money? Do I keep going? Like, holy crap, what am
What
I
a
going to
horrible
do?
problem to have.
So, yeah, it was this weird roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we met the target during a live on the Friday. It happened live when I was with a lady chatting about her reward. And yeah, the vote was keep going, and because we could raise more, it meant we moved out of the minimum order quantities, so I could buy more of the product, and it would last for longer, effectively, and people would be able to continue buying it in the new year. So yeah, that's my little crowdfunding journey and my
That is
journey
so
about
inspiring.
self-belief.
It's so inspirational, but it is inspired because I'd said I wanted to, which I haven't had time to sort out now, but I want to raise more money for Winston's Wish, which is a charity that's really important to me. And I try with the business, but I think what you've done in that female founder generosity is you've untapped this resource that anybody can lean into as long as they've got the right people around them. Because if you are looking to, fund your business, and I mean, how much do people love being part of a story like that? That is,
Yeah, totally. And totally. And you know, from the female founder businesses, I mean, I loved having them behind me for starters. Like, they were like my cheering squad. There were some that got more involved than others, but from their perspective, they got eyes on their business for a whole month. They
mm,
were listed on my website. There was a weekly email with the rewards going out. I did a live with every single female founded business so they could share with my audience what their reward was. That live was then linked back in the email, so it was a continuous option to watch it. And that, I loved it. Like, that
mm.
felt really good
I
to
wish
me,
I'd
because
known you before then.
yeah, I know. I know. Well, and like I say, we had to stop it in the end because
Yeah,
I was getting more and more businesses coming forward, and we were really struggling to manage getting them uploaded on the website and getting the
yeah,
photos and doing the emails and what have you. So I just had to say, I've got to stop it because it's getting out of control. And there was a bit of me midway through that was like, what else could I do with this? And I think it was Nikki who said, just stop, just
yeah,
stop.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no, you don't need to add anything else. Um, but we talked a lot about self-belief, haven't we? I had a conversation with a colleague that's a business coach actually this week, and we were talking about something to do with Masons, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm just a really shit entrepreneur. Maybe I just need to accept it. Something had happened to do with insurances and what have you. And he was like, how can you even say that? You're the woman that just did this crowdfunding campaign. I was like, oh yeah, we've done that now. So
mm,
it's terrible. You think, oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah, oh yeah. I had a real crash after the crowdfunding as well. Like, totally. I, I want to liken it to the people who win gold medals, because I'm sure it felt the same.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I've got nothing to talk about and nothing to do, and I don't know, I don't know what I'm doing now.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
And
weird deflation.
how long did that last?
Oh, actually, quite a few weeks. Yeah, it took me a little while to shake out of that. Again, self belief. I was like, well,
Vulnerability
what?
hangover.
Yeah, like, you were so clear on what you were talking about for a month, so clear on what the goal was, so clear on how driven you needed to be, how much you were going to show up. You had to do it because that was the goal, and you were doing it in front of everybody, so you can't let them down. And of course, afterwards, I was like, I literally have no idea what to talk about now. I thought are they even interested in my tea anymore? Like, that's genuinely what I felt like. Don't know what to talk about. Yeah, it has took me a little while to shake that off.
So
So many
when did that all finish then? It was just finishing, I think.
end of October.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would recommend it. If you're a female founded business, you know, get the benefit, the biggest benefit, which I did not appreciate before we went into this, was how it brought my community together. Like my customer, my crew of people, and they're totally bought into me and the brand and what we're trying to create. And it was amazing. So much so that when we launch the blend, we're going to do an online and a face-to-face launch party, because I think
Mm.
people will actually turn up to
Oh,
that
100%.
because they're
Yeah.
totally involved in it. So
Where are
yeah,
you going to do it?
I haven't worked that bit out yet.
Oh, let
Bedford,
me
I think.
know.
I think I'm going to go. Where are you based, Claire? I can't
I'm in
remember.
Kent, but I'm so
Oh,
close,
okay.
like I'm, hop on a
Yeah,
train.
you're not a million miles. Yeah,
Yeah.
so a very good sort of lady in the female business network area has a stately home that she rents out for sort of social media shoots and private lunches and
Mm.
things like that. So it's absolutely beautiful in Bedford. So I'm actually going to see it next Friday. So I think that's where we're going to host it. It's quite an intimate one, but Jenny was involved in the campaign. She's pre-ordered the tea. So I'd love to support her and showcase off her beautiful home that people can rent out. So yeah, I'm hoping that'll be a really nice collaboration.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oh, I
So
hope I
you'll
can
be on the
come.
invite list. Yeah, I'm going to invite everyone.
Yeah. I love that. My love, I could literally talk to you all day. I think this definitely won't be the last time we
I
talk.
pre-warned you I could talk forever, didn't I?
It's so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous I just want to thank you, and I'm really grateful for how much you've shared, and
Okay.
and I know before we started talking, I said this podcast is about that messy middle, because it's okay to feel messy, because you're not gonna be messy forever. You're not gonna feel like that forever.
No.
You can get through it. And like I said to you, like these stories, we want them to be shared because it just brings so much comfort, and they can listen to those comfort making stories while drinking your tea to make them
Yeah.
feel. We'll put all your links in the show
Absolutely,
notes.
absolutely. But also, just reach out to me on DMs and ask me a question, because I'll tell you how many times I cried in the middle of that crowdfunding campaign and
Yeah,
why, even though it was a huge success, even though I really enjoyed it and loved it, there were points where you're like, holy crap. So I'm very real about what that business journey is. Running a fleet of vehicles that like to break down, be crashed, with 40 staff who, let's face it, managing one member of staff is a pain in the arse.
yeah,
Managing 40 of them is a right pain in the butt. I'll tell you how, I'm very wear my heart on my sleeve and say it as I see it, basically.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
and I
don't think
think
you'll leave me alone.
that's the best way to be, and that's why people want to buy your tea and
God bless.
drive the vehicles, because or be in the vehicles. But I think it's I just want to rewrite that idea that crying is a weakness. We've just had that we
Yeah.
grow up like don't cry, don't cry. I think showing your emotion and using a very natural way to cope with emotion
Mhm.
is a strength beyond measure. Like I I don't see crying as a weakness. I see you just recognizing your strength. We cry and we
Yeah.
move on. How great do you feel after you've had a cry?
Oh my
Get
God,
yourself
so
up.
much. Yeah, I'm going
Boom.
to cry this week. My mum's on holiday. I was like, I need to chat to you. I'm just going to have a little cry down the phone about insurance claims.
Oh my God. That does
It is what
sound
it is.
harsh.
Don't, you don't even want to know. That is a boring story.
Oh, babe. But yeah, you're definitely not a rubbish entrepreneur. Like, no way. No way. Um,
That's very kind of you.
for everybody that's listening, oh no, what before I ask you the 10-year question, where can people find you? You've got such a great business name as well.
Yeah, so Mother Cuppa, just Google me. You should find it. I'm on every social media platform. I'm on LinkedIn as Candice Mason, and I have my real business conversations over there about running the two businesses. Mother Cuppa is all about tea, and I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram. And Mason's coaches, well, you'll just find me spotting around anywhere. And if you're in the local area, you'll start seeing my coaches everywhere now. It's like whatever that effect is, where you start to see them. Big
Cognitive
white coach with my name written down the side of it.
cognitive bias. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's the one.
Brilliant. So, what would you wish you'd known 10 years ago that you know now?
It'll be okay.
It's not just going to. I've got this print here by an artist. The fact that you just said this, and I've lost the name of the artist. Oh, hold on. It's relevant. Oh, she signed it G. Pooh. Forgotten. It's a caterpillar and a butterfly. I need a frame for it. Said it's all. Is it all going to be okay in the end? It's going to be fucking incredible.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, you're getting there.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't need huge material things. I'm not interested in the conversation about 6-figure months and 10K months. Doesn't appeal to me at all. It will be okay because you're going to like yourself as a person and you're going to be happy in your own skin. And that's where, for me, as I've grown older, that is way, way, way more important than any material things. So yeah, that's what I'd prefer to focus on.
I've got one more question for you now because of something you've just said, and I'm just really interested. You don't like conversations about 10K months, which I totally get. Is that because of a belief attached to what it takes to get to 10K months?
No, not at all. I mean, Mason's turns over 4.5 million a year. I know what it's like to run a 6-figure business. That doesn't make you a happy person. I also know what
Yes.
that business is like when it's got zero income in the middle of a lockdown and you've got a £35,000 finance bill to pay. That turnover conversation is completely irrelevant. Talk to me about profit. I'll talk to you about profit all day long. That is where your focus should be. Don't shout on social media that you turn over however much a month. It means diddly squat. I've had a business at points turning over to hundreds of thousands a month and making zero profit. So that's why I don't like that conversation. It's not true. It's not a true reflection on what's really happening in businesses that turn over some serious numbers. Mother
Yeah.
Cuppa, I think in the lockdown, turned over its best month of £5,000, and I'm not taking a salary.
Yeah.
That is paying for its stock, its products, its insurance, its future events, its marketing, whatever, bookkeeping, accountants, everything else that
Yeah.
needs to startup payments, loan payments. So it's not a reflection on saying you turn over a 6-figure business. And actually, we should have started the podcast on this because
We should, because now I'm like, I know I'm the same. I had a big, I was actually on an Instagram live saying why, and it was sparked by a post I saw about how that kind of marketing is lazy. And so I was talking about it on a live, and I was like, I'm so like, I never talk about. There's one way when I talk about it is when I'm talking about my business club, because of strategies to get you to potentially 5K month. But all we woven into that is energy and strategy and joy and all of the other stuff I talk about. And I'm doing this live, and somebody said, like, was watching when I do that, and I was like, I mean, they're like awkward conversation.
yeah.
Okay, and what you do is great. And I just thought, but I don't ever want, if I'm, and I am a business coach, and obviously self-belief, mindset and all of that, but I don't want someone to want to work with me because they think I'm going to guarantee them a certain amount of money. And in my opinion, I feel like it's a pyramid scheme when people do that.
Yeah, I
You know,
think it's really damaging. I look at my daughter and think, what are her aspirations? She's in her second year of university. What does she see on TikTok about that messaging? You don't have to work very hard. You sit on a beach. You
yeah,
have a lovely life. It's unrealistic, unrelatable, unattainable. And it does happen for some people. I'm not saying it doesn't, but not what we're seeing on social media. But I think about the female founded mum who has left the corporate world and started a business so she can be at home with her children, have a better life balance, and the message that if she's not achieving those monetary milestones, that she's not achieving in life.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
just
yeah.
think it's really wrong. And that then leads into self-belief and comparisons of yourself and making you feel like you're not good enough about it. I just think it's all wrong. And it's so unrealistic about running a business. I've got a colleague who runs a massive warehouse glass making for double glass. I mean, his business was turning over millions and making absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
He was stressed. He worked 15-hour days, 7 days a week. Him and his wife hadn't had a holiday for years. Those are stories that I think, that's what the £1 million message teaches you. That isn't
Yeah.
a life. So, yeah, I'd like to have a conversation differently. I don't talk about that so much. I probably should do because I've got a lot to say on it.
Yeah. But you're right. Like, turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. You
Yeah, so
just,
that's a good one. I haven't heard that before.
yeah. Oh, I'm just
It's
all,
all about profit unless you run what I would describe as a care-led brand,
mm,
where the part of the brand is the giving back and the what have you. And maybe profit isn't your priority in that sort of brand. But most people need to start businesses because they need to make money or they need it to
yeah.
fit in their life differently. Let's be honest, we all need to make money, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, we'll have that
Yeah.
podcast another day, Claire.
Yeah, we just opened something really juicy and spicy then. But I love a bit of
We'll do a
spiciness.
live on Instagram or something.
Oh, oh yeah, that would be spicy. Love it. Oh,
Yeah.
Candice, this has been absolutely glorious. I've loved it.
Sweet.
Like,
Yeah, I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
it's just been gorgeous. So everyone knows where to find you. I'm gonna buy some tea today. I feel like definitely the morning blend because I drink tea
Yeah,
anyway then, and then the relax for evening. I'm sorted, aren't I?
amazing. Perfect.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
All right,
let's
have a
get that ready for
wonderful rest of your day.
the
Thank you so much, you. Thank you so much for listening to the No Rest for the Vivid podcast. Written, produced and hosted by Claire Hill, and music has been composed by my brother, Phil Vick.